Okay, here we go, take two. I got an email from a follower this week asking for some advice. They wanted to know if I thought it was safe to buy property near the base of Mount St. Helens. I'm assuming when you mean by the base, you don't mean like right here. Because no, you can't. In fact, you really can't buy a lot of the land right next to Mount St. Helens. Everything here in light green is part of the Gifford-Pinot National Forest. So unless you already owned land that then was grandfathered in when this all became a national forest, you probably won't be able to buy anything in this light green zone. Over here on the west and southwest side of Mount St. Helens, though, there's some private property, but a lot of it is already owned by Weyerhaeuser. They're the largest logging company in Washington state, and they've been around for over 100 years. They owned a lot of this land when the volcano erupted in 1980, and they've continued to plant trees and log it ever since. In fact, a couple of Weyerhaeuser employees were among the people that died in the Mount St. Helens eruption. So there's one town that's really at the base of Mount St. Helens. Cougar, Washington is the closest town to the south side. So as a geologist, the first thing I do whenever I'm probably going to move somewhere is I take a look at that spot and look at its hazards, as you did. Here in Southwest Washington, we actually have more than one volcano. In fact, Washington has five active volcanoes. Mount St. Helens is just one of them. Mount Adams is over here. So don't forget, you do have to think about hazards from Mount Adams as well, although the likelihood of Mount Adams erupting is far, far lower than Mount St. Helens. So what are the volcanic hazards you'll need to worry about? Here on this simplified map, the USGS has 4 major hazards listed. They're not showing volcanic ash, and that's because where volcanic ash goes depends on how the wind is blowing at the time of the eruption. So that could be anywhere. But in this area immediately surrounding Mount St. Helens, which does include the town of Cougar, there is a risk that you could be impacted by lava flows, pyroclastic flows. So think about the clouds of hot gas and ash and everything that came down at Mount St. Helens during the 1980 eruption. Those would be kind of pyroclastic flows. Thick tephra, so lots of really thick ashfall near the site or column collapses. Lahars, which are volcanic mud flows or debris flows. You could get rocks coming out of the volcano, rock falls, parts of the volcano collapsing. Anywhere in this red zone is fair game for that. Now, I did mention lahars, and they have those listed separately here. That's because lahars are volcanic mud flows. They tend to follow rivers. And that's important because a lot of the residential areas for sale are here along the 504. This is Spirit Lake Highway, and it's right along the North Fork of the Toutle River, which was heavily impacted by the 1980 eruption. Now, the good thing is out of the 170 potentially active volcanoes in the United States, Mount St. Helens is one of the most well-monitored. We know a heck of a lot about it, and it's the most well-monitored volcano out of all 5 active ones that we have here in the Washington state. And as somebody who studies what causes volcanoes to erupt, what I also can tell you is that the 1980 to 86 and 2004 to 2008 eruptions show that the magma chamber has been degassing or kind of losing volatiles. So it's probably going to be a very, very, very long time before enough magma and gases can build up in the reservoir to create enough pressure to really cause a huge volcanic eruption like we saw in 1980. Because of that, the USGS doesn't think that a large debris avalanche or pyroclastic flow or VEI4 explosive eruption is likely to occur again at Mount St. Helens within our lifetimes. But that doesn't mean that it can't, right? There's always some level of uncertainty when it comes to dealing with natural hazards. So at the end of the day, would I consider it safe to buy property near the base of Mount St. Helens? It looks like there's a couple listings here on Zillow in the town of Cougar, but I can't tell you what's safe. Safe is subjective. Whether or not something is considered safe for you and your family is a personal decision that you have to make. with knowledge that I can give you as a scientist, but you have to figure out what risk you're comfortable with. Now, I can tell you what I would do. I would probably not buy this house down here. Here's why. It is really close to this lake. So if there's a lahar or something that can come in the middle of the night without warning, I'm thinking of the most probable volcanic hazard here, which is likely to be a lahar. And it could come from either Mount St. Helens or Mount Adams. Personally, if I was going to buy property in or around the town of Cougar, I would pick somewhere that's higher up on a hill. And that's just because a lot of the volcanic hazards that you'll be dealing with will follow topographic lows. The safest thing to do is buy property that's a little bit higher in elevation, so that if a lahar comes crashing down the river, or if there's a pyroclastic density flow, it's less likely that you and your family would be affected, although we can never say never.